At Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.
Write Night is a talk show with published authors, writers, and content creators discussing both the creative and technical sides of writing, as well as the industry surrounding it, from novels to screenplays to comics and more. And now, here's your host, author Travis I. Sivart.
Welcome to Write Night. We'll get to the topic and discussion in just a moment. For those listening to the podcast, we record the podcast on our live stream at twitch.tv/Travis Tavern Talk, and we have a live interactive chat audience. You might hear the sound of the bell ding, and that means I want to interrupt somebody to read a comment or question. For those on the live stream, we won't read off everything you put in chat, but we'll try to get to the most relevant, the most amusing, or some combination of the both. Now, while we introduce ourselves, go and let us know what you're reading, writing, or creating tonight. And while you guys are putting all that in the chat there, I'll let you know I am Travis I. Sivart, author of books such as Etheric Elements and Other Steampunk Gems. And let me introduce my two amazing co-hosts. And by the way, the topic tonight is going to be gender discrimination. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So let's have our co-hosts introduce themselves. Erica, can we start with you?
Sure. Hi, I am Erica Drayton. My author name, though, is E.L. Drayton. And I am just a fairly new indie author. I've been self-publishing now since about 2018, 2019. I've had a few self-publishing titles under my belt, and I'm just getting started with preparing to release a bunch more starting next year. So I'm so excited to be here and to be talking to you guys.
And by failing, she means rising, struggling, working hard. Tomato,
Yes.
tomato. Tara?
I know.
Hey, and I'm Tara Moeller, Dreamer-in-Chief at Dreampunk Press. I'm also a published author under a couple of different pen names. And of course, you can always find my books as well as all of our wonderful collective authors at www.dreampunkpress.com.
Okay, so tonight's topic, gender discrimination, it can be a bit of a heavy topic. So I want to give any kind of warnings that need to be said in the beginning of a topic like this. We are going to be blunt and honest and discuss it. So I really want to turn this over maybe to Tara to start, to maybe give some examples. Tara's eyes just went wide. Or I want to play ignorant on this one. Because, yeah, I've seen this all my life in all the industries. We're looking at writing in particular here, but it's going to spill over into other places. So I'm guessing there's things that me, as a guy, I'm not seeing. I'm not even noticing. I might even be doing. Tara, can you start us out? No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Well, I mean, if you want to think about it, in when you're a woman or anyone that is not part of the club at wherever you work, there are times when you're sensitive to what's going on around you, and sometimes being called vivacious is not meant to be a compliment in the workforce. Folks will use, and like I said, we're going to be blunt. So men will use words like vivacious. They used it to describe me at one point, and it was not meant to be
to describe your personality, or or okay,
and
so
that
not
I mean, call me opinionated. Just call me opinionated and say it. You don't have to say vivacious. Don't talk around things when I'm telling you that you have something spelled wrong or your grammar is off. And I'm going to get emphatic about it because at the time it was, being signed by an admiral. So don't look at me and go, well, you're being a little vivacious, aren't you? Because I'm going to slap you.
See, I would use the word vivacious to describe you because of your love of life and your passion. But if you're being opinionated, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I've always said you're being opinionated.
I mean, there's and then there's being opinionated and emphatic about things.
Right.
Especially when you're working as an editor and you're talking about the document that's being put together, you're talking about your job. When certain descriptors just should not be used. Keep it professional. And I'm, again, without, God, we're talking 8 years ago now, without me being able to recite the conversation word for word, most people, when I say, I don't like being called vivacious, they're going to look at me like, side eye and go, what the heck are you talking about? But within that context,
right.
They were
being a bit piggish.
It was not, it was not appropriate for the conversation. And it was, you're being a little vivacious, aren't you? And it's like, the heck are you talking about?
Let me give Erica a chance to throw some stuff in here, and then I'm actually starting to get some questions here. Erica, do you have something to add to this? Some situation like this, or just general thoughts?
Well, for me in my workplace, I think I get it more from a racial standpoint than gender. But there is that double standard, if you will, because I work in finance. So where I am, it's all about the commas in the right place and the decimal point in the right place and not getting that wrong. And there can be a level of perfectionism that I know that I put on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it is because when I look around, I am the only Black person with this position, or I am the only female who has lasted as long as she has in the same place. And sometimes it takes having a conversation like I had with my former boss, who said to me, you've been there for over 10 years and you haven't asked for a promotion. What is up with that? And it never dawned on me to feel worthy of one. I was just like, well, everyone else rises around me. Eventually they'll notice me sitting in the corner, getting everything right, being perfect, and my time will come. And so I don't know if that's just a product of me feeling like I don't want to be labeled pushy, or, oh, here comes the Black chick expecting her due,
right?
And now we have to give it to her. So for me, I've always felt I'm going to be silent and I'm going to speak through my work. And you are going to notice my work and I am going to be perfect. And in my perfection, you are going to give me what I am due. And if I were to ask, I feel like I'm asking, you know, and I shouldn't be asking. It should just be evident that if Joe Schmo, white dude over there, is barely getting it by, but you just made him a senior and I'm still a regular associate and I am perfect in every way, in my mind, I'm not going to say, why did you promote Joe Schmo and not me? I'm just going to say, in time, they'll see it and they'll give me my due. Okay, and I'm just going to wait. And that's essentially what happened for, I would say, 12 years. And I'm still in the same career, but I have received a promotion since, now 12 years later. But it wasn't within the same company. I got the promotion when I shifted from one agency to the other. And I was able to actually increase my salary in doing so. But I just, you know, I don't want to be seen as that person, because there's those stereotypes that come in to play instantly The second you point out a mistake, which is my job, I'm almost like an auditor.
Right.
So my job is to see the numbers presented, find the mistakes, then find you who made the mistake and say, you fucked up, now fix it. Right.
Gotcha.
And so already nobody likes me. But then it kind of, I do see the looks on their faces, and part of me wonders if in the back of their mind they're thinking, what does this black chick think she is, pointing out my mistakes? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
well, it sounds like it's your
see
job,
it on their
so
face. Right. It's my and so I try to ignore it and try to like say brush it off my shoulders. But what's crazy is that I feel it more personally now during the pandemic, when all of my meetings are on Zoom and I never have to be in front of these people, than I ever did when I was literally in the workplace, which I think is even crazier. So I actually get more emotional and more upset when I see their faces on the camera as I'm pointing out the mistakes, and I see the what I call the resting bitch face as they're looking at me like,
now,
who the fuck do you think you are, type of thing. And they gave me the same face at work, like to my face. But this, I don't know. There's something about this camera situation where I don't like it.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. 10 years ago compared to now, is there any difference? If so, what differences are you seeing? Good, bad, or otherwise?
Well, I have a bit of there is a difference, but I think it's more geographic. Because 10 years ago, I was working in the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And so there's an East Coast vibe, and there is definitely a West Coast vibe, and they are not the same. And so, when I transitioned, fast forward 10 years, to the new agency within the same umbrella company, I was working on the West Coast. And so the West Coast vibe is young, hip, trendy. They want to talk about, Real Housewives, and they want to talk about The Bachelor, and they want to go have coffee every 15 minutes and chit chat in the kitchen. And the New York vibe is, we are perfect, we are Borg, we do not mess around, right? And I have the New York attitude. And within 5 minutes of me transitioning to LA, that was the first comment everyone said to me: "You're so New York."
I think a lot of New Yorkers get that in California, so.
Because I didn't respond to emails to say thank you, because I asked them for something and they gave it to me, and they said, "You never responded to thank me for giving you the thing that I gave you via email." And why would I clutter your inbox to say thank you? Move on with your life.
By the way, I'm with you on that one.
Good morning. Like, I don't say good morning when they walk by. Please, I'm working. What am I saying good morning to you? I have my headphones on, don't talk to me. So the LA vibe and the New York vibe, two totally different things. LA, everyone was 10 years or more younger than me, which made me feel very old, and I'm not even in my 40s yet. But everyone was like 21 to 25, and it was just like, who are these people? Aliens.
So let me move us away from the accounting sort of workplace and look in the writer's world.
Right.
And Tara, I want to jump over to you. And Tara, when you're done, you can pass it back to Erica. So in the past 10 years, in the publishing world, in the writing world, or going further back, have you seen a change? Is there progress? Is there backsliding? What's going on?
I think it's, different side of the same coin.
Gotcha.
There's discrimination everywhere. And, just I'm working with an author now, and I've been working with her for a couple of years. We're putting out her second book in her fantasy series later this year. And her husband is very involved. Okay. And I get it. He wants to help. He wants to take care, make sure that she's not getting screwed over. No problem. I've got no problem with that. Mentioned, and just before the pandemic hit, we went to a what was the name of the conference? The John Hartness conference down in North Carolina.
Right.
I'm blanking on the name of it right now. And I told him about it. I went down, And he went down. We went down separately, but we were both there. And Chris Kennedy was there, and I was chatting with Chris. And John was there, and I'm chatting with John. And this guy's going around, and he's sitting there, he's talking, and I introduced him to these folks as, hey, he's the husband and new author that I'm working with, and, the yada, yada, yada. And so he asked the question, and I'm like, oh, yeah, well, da, 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 I give the answer. And then he, turns to Chris and John, so are you going to, and John's like, Tara said it.
So he needed male validation for your female opinion.
And I'm like, I've been doing, Dreampunk Press published its first novel in 2012. And, I've been doing this for a while. Have I made mistakes? Yep. I learned by doing and not doing it again. And I just, and Chris Kennedy afterwards come up and he goes, what the heck was that? And I go, well, let me tell you.
And we won't go into that
Chris
here tonight.
He's going to be a problem for you. I'm like, I know. Now, luckily, the author herself has stepped up and went, honey, you this is mine. This is something I'm doing. You want to do my website? You want to help me? Fine. I'm going to interface with Tara. But yeah, there is still now. They're older.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if younger authors and stuff are going to have that same instinct to turn to the male. But in that, just about a little over a year ago was so very much like an episode when we had one male contractor in our editing group, and he was brand new, and I was the lead editor, and folks would walk in and ask him all the questions. And finally, one of the other, wasn't even me, one of the other editors turned up, why the hell are you talking to him about that? Tara's lead. Why are you asking him? He doesn't know.
That's difficult, isn't it? How do you approach somebody to go, hey, I'm over here, this is my job, I'm the authority,
Yeah.
I'm in, or whatever, because as Erica was pointing out earlier, you feel like you're going, hey, look at me, I need attention, when actually you've got a very valid point to make of, this is my job. I am the person you should talk to. And you're going below me. Not even above me. You're going below me.
I'm into my second, half century. I'm on the, women, my age were raised to not say, look at me, look at me. We were raised, to be quiet and supportive and to
seen and not heard.
Being in the, I mean, that was all kids are seen or not heard, but my brother was allowed to be noisy and I wasn't. Of course, I think that was just inherently me too.
Yeah.
But so it's not, for a lot of women, it's not in, it's been raised out of us that, hey, I deserve to be recognized. Hey, I know what I'm talking about. And a lot of times it's, the culture of the organization.
Right.
I hate to say, I now work with the Marine Corps, and they are more gender equal than the Navy. And I never, ever thought I would say that. I always figured, when I was preparing to transition to be, work as a civilian with the Marine Corps, I fully expected that I was going to run into brick walls. And there's brick walls, but what I'm finding in the Marine Corps is they're helping me over. That's very, very different. And I have, Marines coming to me. Now they're younger, and again, when we look at this, I've been with the Marine Corps for 6 years now. So again, that's younger Marines,
right?
Than
could
sailors I was working with.
Could be generational.
Yeah. Like I said, the younger generation's not quite as averse to talking to women and asking for their opinion on stuff, but it's going to take a long time for it to be the norm for everybody to accept it, because there's still a lot of old white guys in charge.
let me move this over to Erica. And Erica, when you're done, let me know, because I have another question that I think is relevant to this.
So, looking at it from a writer standpoint, I've actually, and I won't mention the contest by name because I don't want to highlight it, but there is a specific contest, and it's been discussed in many social circles, specifically, most recently, a group of women who are questioning the turnout or the percentage of finalists who are women versus finalists who are men. And of course, you can look at the overall contest and say, well, if you're only getting 30% submissions who are female and 70% submissions who are male, then it stands to reason that you may only get one or two finalists who are female versus male. But we were actually looking at it from a completely different standpoint, which was not so much who the writer was, but who the main character and hero of the story was.
Okay.
Because in many ways, while you can look at all of the finalists that they've ever had in the existence of this contest, there have been, gender disparities from the author, but again, you would base that based on more men, more women. But looking at it from the standpoint of, has there ever been a finalist where the main character was a female lead? The answer is one. And the crazy part, which started this whole discussion that I'm currently in right now with this group, is that this one has been viciously attacked by so many people because she won. Number one, the author was a female. Her main character is female. Her main character is not white. Her main character is very strong. And the downside and the sadness of it all is when you win this particular contest, you are going to get hundreds, if not thousands of people now reading your book because they know it. It's a popular contest for indie authors. So you're going to see this massive sales. You are going to see these massive reviews on your book. But the last thing we ever expected her to get was people saying, why is an Asian girl a heroine? Who read this book and said this was better than the rest? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Clearly the judges must have been off their rocker. Any other book in all of the books would have been better than this. And you have to ask yourself, where is this idea in the fantasy world, in any genre? When you think of a genre, it's already cookie cut. If it's fantasy, then it's a young white boy who's in trouble rescuing the damsel. And if it's something other, even if it's a young white female, it's kind of like, well, that doesn't seem right. There's something off about that idea. And then when they defend that by saying it's not normal, and in my mind, I'm screaming, it's fantasy.
Right.
It's not real. It is steeped in non-reality. So if we wanted to make a non-white male the hero, it is totally possible. And to steep it in reality and say, well, that would never really happen. Are we talking fantasy or are we talking nonfiction? Because
at Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.
With MailChimp, you get more than a URL. You get an all-in-one marketing platform to help drive sales. With things like data-driven recommendations and powerful automation tools. Get started today at MailChimp.com/smartmarketing. MailChimp, built for growing businesses.
You can't say it's fantasy and then at the same time say, well, I don't know about it being a black female who's so strong and so powerful and such a grand leader. That just doesn't ring true to me. And so as a judge reading this book, I'm going to have to score it 2 out of 10 because no, It could be written perfectly.
Right.
It could be the next bestseller, but I'm going to score it 2 points because it had a female lead, and that's not my thing. And, in the fantasy world, that would never fly.
That's like the 1-star reviews you get because somebody actually downloaded it when it was free. And it's not their genre. So they give you 1 star and move on. And you're like, wait, what? This makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Let me ask you this, because when people think of discrimination, they think if you're black, you're getting it from white people. If you're a female, you're getting it from males. How often do either of you face discrimination from your own race, gender, society, whatever?
All the time.
In what ways?
All the time.
All the time.
And I will tell you from very young age. And the reason is, and this is not a dig on black people, but I grew up in what would be considered the ghetto, in a very poor neighborhood, mixed with all kinds of people, black, white, whatever.
Right.
We were all living in the poor neighborhood. But to be living in the neighborhood like that, and to be obviously well educated, able to speak clearly, not speaking in the ghetto slang vernacular, is a problem. And for me, that was a problem. I was what was known as an Oreo, which is black on the outside and white on the inside, because I was smarter than them and I knew it.
But Oreos are loved by everybody too, right?
I mean, I was getting out of the ghetto and they weren't. And I held my nose up about it. Did I get the crap beat out of me regularly? Damn straight I did. Did I dumb myself down in order to, what I would like to say is survive? Yes, I did. I learned by the 3rd grade, when I had to switch schools, because my intelligence got ahead of me, and so the school I was attending refused to allow me to continue unless my mother agreed to skip me several grades because I was too smart for the grade I was in. So she thankfully moved me to a different school. I decided to rebrand myself, and I was not going to be the smart kid. I was not going to stand out. You might say I did it too well, because I went from an A student to barely a C student. But it was something that I just had to accept. My mother was a high school English teacher, and I did not go to pre-K or kindergarten or anything like that because my mother taught me everything I needed to know. And there was no way that I was going to hide that. I went to college where it was 5% African American. All of my friends, all of my best friends are white. And they all, feel very comfortable in saying to me, you're not the stereotype that we thought all black people are. And it's just mind-boggling, but it's the reality. But I do get snickers, I get stares. I go back to my old neighborhood and they all know me. Oh, there she is, thinks she's better than everybody else. She left the hood. She didn't get pregnant at the age of 15. She's not on welfare. She went to college. And I get that from black people all the time.
I think this is a different kind of discrimination. This is intelligence discrimination. And yeah, people do face that because the majority aren't necessarily as intelligent as a few. And it does create an intimidation. And how do you fight something that intimidates you? Well,
I left. That's how I fought it.
Right.
I was like, I'm not staying here.
But the
you're
people
not
on
getting
the
me to stay
street
here.
were intimidated by you, and the way they fought it is by punching you or knocking you down,
right,
or taking
right,
whatever was in your hand that day. Tara, what about you? How often do you face discrimination from? She's thinking.
You mean from white women?
From white women,
No.
from other females, from people of your own social group as opposed to outside of your social group?
Okay. social group. You're my social group. What the hell? I have a very small social group. The closest I can get to. So I was raised, poor neighborhood, poor town, one black man there. Joined the Navy to get out. Then went to university, got my bachelor's and got my master's, which the Navy helped pay for. And I live in Hampton Roads, which, I mean, we got all colors here.
Right.
So, and Hampton Roads ranks very high for LGBT equality and standard of living here. And I love it here. And now I have a job in Quantico. So I have been lucky this last year teleworking, but up there, and again, the Marine Corps itself, you know, your Marine Corps green, everybody, and it's very, very equal. I can walk in, Chief of Staff says, you know, I come in with my purple hair when I have it, and he's like, I like your hair. He's a retired Marine. So there's an acceptance up there where I work that I have Cuban blood in me, and it never ever fazed me, and I never ever felt that anybody looked at me and went, oh, you're not 100% white, until I was, you know, rooming in Stafford. And I would go in places and people, you know, it took me a while to figure out why I was getting this little, oh, no accent? I'm like, what the hell kind of accent would you think? I can speak French. Come on.
I was expecting the boot.
Boot in a boot. I never really had that accent either, although I'm told I have a Virginia accent now. But I was out with a coworker from Puerto Rico, and we went to a Puerto Rican restaurant for lunch. And it's fine, and I'm fitting in, and we're ordering, and the cashier speaks Spanish to him, and then turns to me and starts speaking Spanish, and I'm just, and Ivan kind of laughs and goes, no, she doesn't speak Spanish, and the woman's just like, what do you mean you don't speak Spanish? You look Spanish. And I'm like, you look Puerto Rican. And I'm like, no, sorry. Which is fine. Finished, placed my order in English. And he says, you know, you look Puerto Rican. Do you? And I'm like, never thought about it. And he says, well, you know, because, you know, we've been going for lunch with another couple of folks from Puerto Rico. And he goes, you never noticed the looks? And I'm like, what looks? And he goes, they don't, you don't have an accent. They're surprised. And that's when it dawned on me that they're, you know, been expecting me to speak with a Puerto Rican accent all of this time. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans in Northern Virginia. And so it surprised me, and it's about as close as I can get. And again, it doesn't impact me because I don't have an accent, and so I probably get a little bit better treatment than somebody who were to look like me that speaks with a heavy Spanish accent. I feel bad because they're, you know, it's like, is this what happens when you have an accent?
I want to ask you,
you know, on the other side of it, where they're expecting me to have an accent and I don't. So, but for me, no. It's, again, I'm mostly passing white. I'm white, and so the idea of I don't think I've had it other than from white men.
Now we have a comment here in chat. I'm going to read this off and ask you guys a question paraphrased out of it, and then we'll wrap it up after that here. Marlene in chat says, I think a lot of middle-aged women in leading positions now only made it there because they systematically stepped on any competition on the way there, mainly due to the fact that they were surrounded by male culture when they made their career. In my experience, many of them are worse than men in being supportive to helping younger women now to advance. Do you guys have some thoughts on this? Erica, have you seen this where women who are in positions of power, especially middle-aged or above? Go ahead.
I do, and I don't understand where that. I mean, I think I know where it comes from in that they clawed their way to the top, and they don't want to lose it, and they fear that the younger generation, be it obviously a female, may take it from them. And so, more power to them. They fought, they got there, they reached the upper echelon. But I do think it's unfortunate, especially because in the man's game, that's what men do. They bring their buddies up with them.
Right.
So I feel like in order for us as women to have the same equal playing field, the idea is not to promote the ignorant white dude because you know that he's not as smart as you and he's a different gender, rather than promote the woman who you know should have it because you're afraid that she will age you out. And so I think in a lot of ways that's what happens. And so I know, like, from thinking about my former job in New York versus LA, everyone was young. New York, everyone was in a position of authority, was like a director or a CEO or higher, and they were all women, and they were all over the age of 50. And no, I was the younger one in that situation. I was the baby. I was the odd one out because everyone there had been there 20, 30, 40 years, clawed their way to the top. And anytime they hired someone new, it was usually a guy. It was usually someone straight out of college. And what would happen with him? He would feel, I'm not getting paid enough here. And he would move on to something else to get paid more money somewhere else. But I would never see them bring in a female who was young or my age. And I truly believe it's because they all got there, all in their 50s, all close to retirement, but not there yet. And they want to hold on to it as much as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have the same mentality that I feel all men do, which is, like I said, this boys club where you want to bring your buddies with you. And it's really sad and unfortunate, but I don't have any other explanation for why that happens, but I definitely see it where there's a female director. She's less likely to promote a younger female who is under her than she is to promote the young, dumb dude who's barely getting by. She's more likely to promote him.
Interesting. Tara?
So I think,
Yeah.
Erica had mentioned, playing the man's game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it's women are intentionally playing that game or whether it's just that there are women with that kind of personality and they're the ones that succeed. Because because it's part of their personality, it's part of the way they operate. I mean, I'm successful by default. I have been the second choice for every job I got. And for one reason or another, top choice bailed. They couldn't give them enough money, whatever. And they said, hey, you were our runner-up. You were our second choice. Are you still interested in the job? And I took it because each time it was, one was a lateral that could have been to a promotion, and then, oh wait, they decided to get rid of that position and give a man a promotion over to who had no idea how to edit.
The fact that they told you each time.
I have now.
The fact that they told you each time that you were second choice, that's kind of.
The government does that. Government does that.
Oh, okay.
The government does that.
That's part of the procedure then.
Okay. And it preps you because a lot of times they end up having to go down to second choice, third choice. I went to a women's conference, a women in federal, in what is it? Federal
employment?
Anyway, it was a one-day conference for women who were either already government civilians or females in the military transitioning and wanting to get a civilian job in the government, in DOD. And there was one panel, they were taught, or one presenter, and it was about kindness. getting ahead with kindness. And the things they were talking about is, oh, making the coffee.
Wait, what?
Yes, making the coffee for everybody, making sure they have this and whatever. I'm like, you're telling us to be mothers to our male coworkers? Not gonna happen. And I'm in the back and I'm starting to stew. I'm older, okay? I'm not these, and there's young Marines, young sailors, women, with silver or gold, actually, because silver's when the higher, it's gold and silver's opposite in the military.
Okay.
All right, so we're talking young officers who were going, finalizing their commission and going to be starting to, interview and apply for jobs within DoD and civilian world. And I'm like, you're telling them, oh, you have to be kind. I wanted to just spew, erupt in this. And the two other ladies that happened to be sitting at this table with me, one of them started drumming on the table and just drumming on the table. And the other one just was like,
how old was the person giving a presentation?
Drinking it up, and I'm like, we don't need to be babysitters. You are telling us to be babysitters.
How old was the person giving the presentation?
My age.
You feel like
if
they
not
might have
older.
Okay. Let's wrap this episode up. Give some recap feedback or closing thoughts. Erica, can we start with you? Pass it to Tara when done, and I'll take us out.
Sure. So speaking from a place really more of a writer than anything else, because I always put my writer self forward. I think we are headed in a very good direction in the writing community, only because a lot of movements that have been going on now are shining a light, whether white men like it or not, whether the big 5 publishing houses like it or not, where a lot of the books that we see now when we go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon or anything like that are by authors of color, are by female authors. When you look at a lot of the writing conferences that are happening now, a lot of them are being led by women, be it of color or white women. And I think that's the trend that is going to happen now, where we don't have to hide behind initials in our author name. We don't have to hide behind a pen name anymore. And we don't have to, hide the covers of our books so that no one knows until they start reading it that they are going to encounter a female heroine, because that's just the norm. Will it happen in the next decade? Boy, I hope so. Because someone like me who's trying to break in would love to not have to be the voice. I would, of that march and that movement. I would love to just be able to be the writer and not have to carry the banner for blacks,
right,
for women, for gays. Like, not that I don't, that I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I mean, I've got enough on my plate. I want to just be able to write, release my stuff, have people like it, and not question my motives, question the story beyond loving the characters, right? So that's my 2 minutes there. I'll pass it to Tara now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've come forward, but there's a long way to go. And when you have competitions where you have somebody win and it should be celebrated, and they are attacked and almost vilified for being the winner, like it's their fault. We're obviously have a long way left to go, and we have to stick together on it. And I'm going to say it. White women have a bad track record of sticking together. And I want to break that mold. I don't want to fit in that mold. But we have a long way to go. And the only way is to keep going. And then to also, there's going to be those that are going to sit there and go, oh, preach, be kind, win by kindness. No, that's not going to cut it. So we have to look at those as they're in sheep's clothing. And we have to look at it, and we have to recognize and be aware that, especially if it's a white woman talking, that they don't necessarily have everyone else's best interests. Like I said, that one panelist, I don't know where she was coming from, but we have to
the 50s.
Be aware and be willing to speak up to others so that go, hey, take that with a grain of salt. Think about what that person is saying and telling you. Really think about who's benefiting from what they're telling you. And some of us older folks, it's not like we have to tell the younger folks coming up what to do, but we have to help them discern between, like, hey, don't be afraid of your own path. Listen to what some of these folks have to say, but don't always take it to heart.
Be a bit of a guide and a mentor. Marlene gave a nice bit that I'll use as my closing here. Marlene in chat says, I think now as men are slowly changing their expectations of life, it will slowly change that too. That being the situation, how women come up in business and in professional worlds. Men actually taking family leave, being more involved with family and kids. And the change is important. Slow change is better than none, but I think we could do better than that. Okay, ladies, if you'd say good night to everybody, and I will take us out of here.
Good night.
Before we go, I want to remind everyone that you can email us at rightnightshow@gmail.com. That's right with the W, night with an N, show@gmail.com. To let us know your thoughts on the show's topic, suggest other topics you'd like to hear us discuss, or just have a message read out on air to someone in your life. Thanks to everyone for supporting the show by downloading the podcast, sharing it on social media, grabbing some shirt stickers and mugs from bit.ly/tavern merch, or barware patches and hats from bit.ly/tavern merch too. That's bit.ly/tavern merch or tavern merch followed by the number 2. Thanks to everyone who joined us live at twitch.tv/Travis Tavern Talk, and everyone who supports the tavern by subscribing, hosting, throwing bits, raids, and most of all, commenting.
Thank you for joining author Travis I. Sivart and the other writers, content creators, and all-around amazing people for our discussion here on Right. Join us again soon, and until you do, make sure you create with passion, enjoy the journey, and remember, every night can be right night.
At Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.